Is that I can explain how character and a setting affect the events in a story. You'll know that you succeeded if you've compared and contrasted the Stinky Cheese Man and the Gingerbread Man. You've decided how the events change because of the different characters. You've thought about how the story might have been different in a different setting. And you've started planning a rewrite of the story with a different setting or a different main character. So, you need to have watched the Gingerbread Man and the Stinky Cheese Man in order to understand this lesson. So if you haven't done that, go back and find those on today's page. So now that you've watched those two read-alouds, it's time to compare the characters. How are Gingerbread Man and Stinky Cheese Man the same? How are they different? Pause the video and do that. Here's what I came up with. Gingerbread Man, he's made of gingerbread, he smells tasty. Stinky Cheese Man, he's made of stinky cheese, and he stinks. Those are pretty obvious, they're kind of right in the name, but they are important differences. Note that they're not completely different characters. They do some of the same things, and they have some of the same traits. Importantly, they both like to run away from the people who made them, and they're not very bright. Okay, so we'll notice that these differences cause differences in events, and some of the similarities cause some similarities in events. Why don't you figure out those differences and similarities now? How are the events of the story of the Gingerbread Man and Stinky Cheese Man different and the same? Pause the video and do that. So here's what I came up with. The Gingerbread Man is different because he eventually gets eaten, right? That's what happens at the end of his story. And the people actually chase him when he says, aha, you can't catch me, I'm the Gingerbread Man. They're actually chasing him. And that's directly because he smells good. He smells tasty. That's the reason for that difference. Stinky Cheese Man, on the other hand, because he stinks, the events change. The people don't chase him, and instead of getting eaten, the fox that is carrying him on his back chokes and drops him in the river. So the differences between the characters cause very clear differences in the plot. But the similarities also cause similar things too. So they both ran away from their creators, and they're both not very bright. So they both end up doing a lot of running in the story, and they both end up dying at the end of their story because they're not that intelligent. So some similar things happen because the characters are similar. Not every change to a character is going to cause a different event. All right, take a look at the settings now. Think about how the where and the when of these were different. Where and when did they both take place? Do that now. Here's what I came up with. They're pretty similar. They both take place on a farm or near a farm, and they're mostly outdoors. They definitely seem like they're taking place in the past, maybe the distant past. The only real difference I could spot was that Stinky Cheese Man also takes place by a river. And so let's see. The stories have pretty much the same setting. How might changing the setting affect the events of the story? So if we set this story, we had the same main character, the Gingerbread Man, but he was on the moon. How might that change the events of the story? I want you to think about that and talk about it if you're in the class right now. So today, your goal is to be able to explain how events change because of different characters or settings. Your teacher is going to put you in breakout rooms and give you a different setting or a different main character. I've listed some possibilities on the screen. And then you and your partner or small group are going to decide how the different setting or a different character would change the events of your story. Okay, so you've got the Gingerbread Man, he's in a castle, or you've got the Rose Petal Man, and he's still on a farm outside and running away from the people who made him. Okay, how does the one thing that you change the events of the story? So you're going to discuss that in your group and take some notes, because later today in writing class, you'll be writing the story that you come up with right now in your small group. Okay, my crew is going to reunite at 8:55 to touch base before we break out into reading groups and finish up reading for today. See you guys soon.